Other familiar elements that you'll find in Beast Wars is that there is an Optimus, but it's not Optimus Prime. It's certainly not the original Optimus Prime. This is Optimus Primal, and he's a Maximal descendant of the original Optimus Prime by all accounts. He's not a grand leader or anything to that effect. This is the first Transformers show that has an Optimus who is not some grand leader. He's not some hero or anything to that effect. In fact, none of the Maximals in Beast Wars are. They're just a ship. They're a research vessel, an exploration vessel. Their vessel, the Axelon, is designed for deep space exploration, and that's their mission. That's it. They're scientists. And there is also a Megatron, and Beast Wars Megatron is definitely not Generation 1 Megatron. Don't tell anyone, but I actually prefer Beast Wars Megatron to Generation 1 Megatron quite a lot. He's what can be most aptly described as a war criminal. He is part of the Predacons, the descendants of the original Decepticons. But whereas most of the Predacons seem content to bide their time and wait for an opportunity to present itself before they make a bid for power on Cybertron, the Maximals and the Predacons exist in a very tenuous peace on Cybertron. Under the rulership of triumvirates, ruling councils, you have the Autobot ruling council, which in various fan fictions, it's never specifically stated who the ruling councils are, but or at least who the Maximal ruling council is. But it's assumed in many fan fictions that the ruling council for the Maximals are the three Transformers that make up Magnaboss, the Beast Wars Combiner, because the rulers of the Predacons are the Tripredacus Council, and of course Tripredacus is the Combiner, the Predacon Combiner that we never saw in the cartoon side. We did very briefly see his constituent pieces in one episode, but we never see the combined form, unfortunately, and they never get directly involved in the Beast Wars, which is a shame. It would have been very nice to see Tripredacus and Magnaboss in Beast Wars, but these ruling councils maintain a very tenuous peace amongst the Maximals and the Predacons on Cybertron that has subsisted for a long time, apparently. But whereas the Tripredacus Council and the other Predacons are willing to bide their time and wait for an opportunity, Megatron, or this new Megatron, rather, he wants a return to the old glory days of war. He wants to spark off the conflict once again, and he wants the Predacons to rise up and take what he regards as rightfully theirs by force. And thus he takes the name of the original Megatron. He's a criminal. The Tripredacus Council at one point described him as brilliant, but a rogue, and causes too much trouble. And he is brilliant. The Beast Wars Megatron is enormously intelligent, and he's 90% of the time at least several steps ahead of the Maximals because he knows what's going on. The Predacons are winning the information war in the Beast Wars. They always know more about what's happening. In particular, they always know more about the circumstances in which they find themselves. Although the Maximals seem to win more of the individual battles, the Predacons seem more acutely aware of what's happening in the overall scheme of things. And initially it just seems that Megatron's agenda is rather simple and much more akin to Generation 1 Megatron. It looks like that he just wants Energon in order to fuel a war. However, it turns out that no, that isn't his agenda at all. That's just a bonus. We learn later on in the series that the planet on which these Maximals and Predacons have crash-landed is actually Earth. But it's prehistoric Earth. They've gone through their ships are equipped with experimental transwarp technology, which allows them to traverse very large distances and also time, unfortunately. And they've gone back in time to prehistoric Earth. Which means that the original Autobots and the Decepticons also exist in this time frame and on this planet. If you remember Generation 1, the original Generation 1 continuity has the Autobots and the Decepticons crash landing in the Ark on prehistoric Earth and being deactivated for millennia until Mount St. Helens, in which the Ark is embedded, explodes and reactivates Teletran 1, the Ark's onboard computer, which then sets about rebuilding and reconfiguring the Transformers, which then sparks off the war that we all know and love. Megatron's agenda is even more megalomaniacal than you'd ever imagine, anything that Generation 1 Megatron attempted. He wants to kill Optimus Prime and destroy the Autobots whilst they're still in stasis. This will cause an anomaly in time, which will mean that history will change. It means that Optimus won't rise to become the great leader of the Autobots. It means that the Decepticons will win on Earth and will potentially win the wider war, and thus their descendants, the Predacons, will come to dominate Cybertron and the wider universe. That's his agenda. It turns out eventually that's what he's trying to do. It takes a while for it to come out. In fact, you don't find out the full extent of his lunacy until the end of Season 2. There are hints to it throughout, little suggestions in the forms of interactions he has with Dinobot. And Dinobot is one of the finest characters you will find in any Transformers continuity. Dinobot is a rogue Predacon. He was originally part of Megatron's crew, but betrays Megatron in the first episodes and joins the Maximals. And the reason he does that is not because he sympathises with the Maximals' agenda. He's not a Maximal. He is a Predacon at heart, and he remains one. He's just a very particular kind of Predacon. He's an honourable Predacon. If there's any Generation 1 analogue I can think of to him, it would be Cyclonus, without the loyalty. But he has the same sense of nobility and honour about him. And he's also very much like Grimlock as well, as he was portrayed in The War Within and the Dreamwave Generation 1 continuity. He's a rogue. And Dinobot also knows what's happening. He doesn't know initially. He actually believes that Megatron has led them to the wrong planet at first. But he does discover as time progresses that actually he was wrong and that this is Earth and that Megatron was right initially. And this makes the war for Dinobot all the more significant because he's not just fighting against the Predacons, he's fighting to safeguard the future of the universe. And thus his individual battle becomes all the more significant, and it ends in the most amazing way possible. The episode Code of the Hero, in which Dinobot faces off against the Predacons, all of them, and is killed, is one of the best episodes of any Transformers series ever. The script is razor sharp. The animation is actually pretty good for a Beast Wars episode, and it's just such a fitting end for the character. It's a very noble and heroic sacrifice, and it also incorporates. I was watching it earlier, and there's some elements to it I cannot believe they managed to get into a children's show, a show that is ostensibly aimed at children. At the very beginning of the episode, Dinobot is portrayed in his quarters kneeling, and he has his sword, and he's contemplating killing himself. His position is that of someone about to commit seppuku, like the Japanese samurai ritual suicide. But he can't do it. He lacks the courage to do it. I mean, how many children's shows would incorporate something like that? Could incorporate something like that? But yes, in various conversations between him and Megatron and Tarantulas and Megatron, the overall scheme becomes apparent,